Okay, we're going to go over what we were talking about in the class. I have my ingredients and all this stuff. Here's my rack. Now I was talking about how the tubes are loose, so I can put some layers of tape. What that does is tightens it up. I can use several different sizes of tubes on this rack. If you use the rack for a while, the mandrels will start getting loose in the holes. You can put tape on them and then hit them in and they'll get tight. We have something to pack with, just like a big washer on a tube. And we're going to go ahead and start. We have everything zeroed out. We're going to go with the first ingredient, which is Karo syrup. I need to look to see how much I need. Very thick. And I'll show you how to, if you get a little bit too much, whether you take the spoon. At this point, it's fine to do this because it's not contaminated. We're going to call that good. We're going to add a little bit of water to it to thin it out. I can mix these together. Right now all I have is a regular spoon, and I do have the tip of the spoon bent over so that it'll catch on the bowl and won't slide in. I'm just going to mix these two together. That's good for now. The next chemical or ingredient is very thick. Now, I can apply it to the side of the bowl by squeezing. This is like very thick honey. I keep this stored in a little squeeze bottle upside down in a cup to catch any drips so that it's at the right end when I get ready to use it. We're going to mix this in. Just trying to get it off the side of the bowl now. Going with the next ingredient. On these smaller batches, you're down to drops or two. Going to mix this in. Going with some soy sauce. You can put these into smaller containers if you want. So that's almost all ingredients. We'll put 1 or 2 drops of this in there, just using a stirring stick. So now I have all the wet ingredients in here. I'll mix it up a little bit more. It's kind of a cream now. Get the stuff off the side of the bowl. Rolling it around. You can see how it's kind of a creamy white right now. Kind of looks like candy. Then we're going to go on to our dry ingredients. The next one is just some red coloring. It takes a very small amount. We're going to use screens on all these. I have a spoon. You can do plastic spoons. And clean the screen. And watch how this is going to turn red, hopefully. Then I'm going to work the sides of the bowls just back and forth like this. This next one is we don't want to create too much dust with it. We'll bring it up here. I have little like feed scoops that I use to put this in. And clean this. Get this out of the way. We're going to stir it up real slow on this so we don't create any dust. Once we get it wet it out a little bit, go ahead and work it back and forth. If you see any little red streaks of stuff, mix it a little bit more. I dried the next ingredient that kind of looks like flour. Going to screen it too. Keep checking your weight, make sure, especially when you get my age. Going to mix in the flour that we dried. So it's gotten a little bit thicker. The red's gone. The red coloring has gotten a little bit darker. So now we're going to put in our big salt. Just use plastic cups on this. Figure out where we're heading weight-wise. So we got a little bit extra. We can pull that out. Clean spoon. So that's just kind of a coarse salt. You can see it in there. Going to mix it out. It'll get a little bit thicker. work the sides so everything gets mixed up. Our next thing is going to be our medium-sized salt. Okay, at this point we're going to switch over to the ice cream scoop mode and take our finger, clean off the spoon. Since that was the last ingredient, we don't care how much it weighs right now. Again, this is just how I do it. Whether it's the right way or the wrong way, it's the way that's been working for me. So now we're just going to mix this all together with this ice cream scoop. We tried a regular spoon for this batch of stuff. The spoons would bend. So you can see how dry it is. So all we're going to do is work this. It's still pretty dry looking. There's still wet spot or dry spots in there. So we're just going to kind of tamp it together. Making sure the bottom's nice and done too. We just don't want to see any wet spots in there. If you have some on your spoon, you can go ahead and clean it off. And so this is what we end up with. It's kind of like sand with some honey in it. So we're going to set that aside. Then bring the rack over. We want to pre-treat the tube so that we don't pull any moisture out of this. Already mixed up some of the Karo syrup and some of the soy sauce. Give it a little mix. I'm going to use my finger to get it started in the tube. Then I have my packing tool. Look down in there, see how well you're doing. It's pretty good. We're going to roll this around, do the other end. So now we have this all coated. This mandrel's already in here. It's coated with a release. I have the tape on here. We're going to push this down. You can see how the tapes line up with the boards here. Get this out of my way. Move the scale. And clean the excess stuff off of here. I'm going to take a ball of this, about the size of a golf ball, and I'm going to knead it back and forth. And you can see where it really wets out. It'll hold its shape. If I put it there, it would dry like that. Other formulas would fan out and end up like a pancake. So once I get to this point here, I'm going to make kind of a flat pancake out of it. And this is what I call hand degassing. So it's now very thin. I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it around the mandrel, drop it in there, take my packing tool, spin it, and give it a couple of whacks. Same thing. About as much as a golf ball. Knead it back and forth. Flatten it out. Make kind of a pancake. Fold it around the mandrel. Let it drop down in there. Spin it. Pack it. Hit it too hard, you can tear the casting tubes. So the smaller your ball that you flatten out, probably the less chance of getting pockets in there. So we're about halfway done with this. If you only had a dowel, you'd want a dowel, maybe slightly bigger than this, and you're just going around packing it like that. Probably 2/3 full. Once you get it towards the top, you can actually use your finger to pack it in here. By using your finger, you can center that mandrel much better if you're doing it with a rod. Our mandrels are centered. Let's clean that up some. Clean up the scrap. What I use to clean up everything is lacquer thinner. So any of these little pieces, put them down here in the bowl. Grab the lacquer thinner. A little shot in here. So I think that's taken me like 17 minutes to hand mix. I'm going to clean up the bowl and everything using the lacquer thinner. We'll let that set up overnight, and then we'll come back and cut the grains. You can see how well that the lacquer thinner cuts all this stuff. Use this last paper towel. This goes in my burn bag. So you can see in a few minutes, cleans up pretty easy. So we'll come back and cut these grains.